Hello! Welcome back to my little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be reviewing the Winsor and Newton Cotman line of watercolors, which are their student grade paint. You can find them in tubes, which I have a few of, or in half pan sets. I have the 12 pan brush pen travel set, but the line of paints is the same in all of the sets, and they have a lot of little travel sets to suit your needs. If you're looking for a review of the specific half pen set that I have, that's not this video, although I will tell you that the brush pen is pretty good, pretty standard, nothing special. It's pretty standard for a little baby travel set. These were the first watercolors that I used when I decided that I wanted to learn to paint about 1.5 years ago, and I used them exclusively for about 4 months, and then I upgraded to White Nights because the Cotman paints were too frustrating, and I haven't really used them since then. In this video, I'll be giving you my perspective as someone who was completely new to watercolors, which is more who these are intended for. They are a student grade paint. And also, I will be giving my perspective as someone with a bit more experience. I almost exclusively use watercolor, and I paint almost every day, so I definitely have a better idea of what I need to do with watercolors to make them work. I also thought that the paper may have affected my impressions because I'd only used these with the Strathmore 400 series, so for this video I'll be using the Fabriano Artistico paper, which I've enjoyed using with other paints. I'll also be swatching them on the Strathmore 400 paper so you can see how that interacts, and then painting a portrait on the Fabriano paper. I remember that these paints felt quite chalky and muddy, so I wanted to swatch them before I started mixing them. At first they felt pretty good, but then I noticed that they dried astonishingly fast, which is not ideal. It's difficult to blend these out before they dry, so they'd work if you like a layered look and don't like waiting for paint to dry, but I wouldn't recommend them for a beginner because you'll have trouble learning to blend and work with wet on wet technique. I don't have all of the colors in the 12 pan set also in tubes, so I swatched the colors that I did have in tubes first, and then I swatched the remaining colors with the half pans. The main difference that I noticed between the two was the amount of pigment. Straight from the tube you get a pretty gummy pigment load, but there is a lot of paint there, so you do get pretty vibrant color. Unfortunately, when you move to the half pans, there's really nothing there. You have to work so hard just to get enough paint out to put color on the paper. I was working straight out of the pan. I was not watering these down in the mixing well at all, and they're still pretty faint. And another thing that I noticed when I was painting is that it's incredibly difficult to get a dark wash using paint from the pans. And I didn't have enough primary colors in the tubes to paint with exclusively those to show you the difference there. But I definitely did notice that the pigment load and color payoff was an issue with the half pans.
Alright, in terms of first impressions, or I guess second impressions, because I have used these before, I'm a little bit worried about these backgrounds. I do like how well they flow in the water. We'll see. I think I remember these feeling pretty good when you only did a few layers, but once you started actually layering, they really got chalky. And especially on this blue one, the turquoise, you can see a lot of, I don't know if that's granulation or just separation. Could be the paper, so I'm gonna try a different paper, the Fabriano Artistico, in my sketchbook because I have only used these paints on this specific paper. Alright, so yesterday I did this little sketch in preparation for this. This is from my last video where we did a random color challenge, so I just picked 2 random colors. If you want to see that one, I'll leave a card. I'll also put a link in the description if you want to watch that when you're done with this one.
Comparing the prices of these paints, I was shocked at how expensive they are for the quality. The cheapest I found was $22 at Michael's, which comes out to $1.83 in US currency per half pan. But the official Winsor and Newton site sold this set for $35.99, which is extremely overpriced in my opinion. The 8ml tubes were $4.99 each. For some context, Daniel Smith, which is a artist grade, professional grade paint, sells 5ml tubes for $6 to $8 depending on the color, and the 36 color White Night set ranges from $60 to $70, which is $1.67 per whole pan. Again, the Cotman half pans were $1.83 for half a pan, so more expensive than the White Nights paints. Now, those are not technically an artist grade paint. They're kind of in the middle of student grade and artist grade, but I think they're loads better. And if you can afford to just buy that set, I would definitely recommend that. And I made a review video on that a while ago, so you can go check that out after this video.
Already these are drying really fast, which is kind of surprising given the paper that I'm using. Usually this paper just sits with the paint for a while. My original plan was to work a bit more wet on wet with these, but as you can see when I'm trying to even just fade out that line, which I should be able to do, it's only been a couple of seconds. It's like getting backruns, and that's not good.
I'd hoped that changing the paper would make the paints easier to use, but I realized quite quickly that in fact it was the paint's problem and not the fault of the paper. So perhaps I should give this paper another go.
You can see right here where I tried to sort of fade out the color, it's already having runs.
The problem with the runs persisted, and I soon found that even layering was difficult. Blending skin is already hard, but when you can't layer or blend out the color, it's even harder.
Even here where I layered, where I thought the paint was dry and it wasn't totally dry, it's running back. And usually I can paint over things that aren't totally dry, and that doesn't happen with my White Night set on this paper. So that's certainly interesting.
In the end, I really struggled to layer these. The layers also reactivated quite a bit, and it just was a very unpleasant experience and reminded me why I switched to the White Nights paints. I like to think that if I had had better paints to start with, I might have created more and had a much more pleasant experience, but in the end, I'm so glad that I persevered. In conclusion, I would not recommend these paints. As a beginner, I felt like I was fighting with the paint every time I used it, and it almost made me want to quit watercolor, which would have been a big mistake because it's now one of my favorite mediums. Not only are the paints a bit chalky, they also could be much more vibrant and have a greater concentration of color. It takes so many layers to achieve a dark wash, and the final result is muddy and dissatisfying. When you're a beginner artist, you need the materials to work with you, not against you. And unfortunately, many student grade paints will have the same problems as these. So I'd recommend investing in a set of 6 split primaries, so a cool and a warm hue of blue, red, and yellow, because you can mix virtually any color. And it's good to learn color mixing early on instead of relying on convenience colors. When you've painted more, you'll know which colors you mix often, and you can buy a tube of those colors so that it's more convenient, hence the name. I would definitely recommend getting a set of high quality paints over this little set. The Daniel Smith Essentials set is $35 on Blick, which is around what Winsor and Newton sells this set for on their site. While you do have fewer colors, 6 versus 12, you're actually getting more paint. You get 6 5ml tubes in the Daniel Smith set instead of 12 2ml pans in the Cotman set. I'll be doing a full review of the Daniel Smith set soon, so stay tuned for that. And if you're watching this after I've uploaded that, I will have it linked in the little card thingy. The bottom line is that this set is a waste of money and it won't help you to learn and enjoy art. I would recommend staying away from this. I know some people love the regular professional Winsor and Newton paints. I haven't tried those. Those could be great, but the Cotman set is not worth it, and it's just going to make you frustrated. If you'd like to see the process for the other painting on this spread, I'll have that linked in the card. I did a little random color challenge, and yeah, if you're interested, go check it out. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.